Sikha is look at the Sikha Chelik Tesvav, the third Sikha to this week's Parsha, to Parshas Vayechi. Parshas Vayechi, we learn about the brachas that Yaakov Avinu, before he passed away, gave to his children, and other things that he said to them. And one of the things that it talks about is what he said to Reuven. This Sikha is going to be on that pasuk. If Reuven Pchereato, on the words on this pasuk, the Rebbe is going to quote certain words of the pasuk, and he's going to bring what Rashi says. So on this pasuk, where it starts off saying like this, he spoke to Reuven and he said, Reuven Pchereato, Reuven, you are my firstborn, Gamer, etc. And he said, Yeser Seis Yeser Oz. And the way Rashi will explain it, but I'll mention it already now, that you should have gotten something extra. And he mentions two things. Yeser Seis, you should have gotten Seis, and we'll see in a moment what that meant. Yeser Oz, you should have gotten more Oz. But Pachas Kamayim Al Teiser, because you rushed like water, you will not get those extra things. Now, what does that actually mean? So, is Rashi Mafarish the word? Rashi explains the word like this: when the pasuk says Yeser Seis, like you should have gotten more Seis. What is Seis? Royo Yisalias Yeser Alachecha Bekuna. You should have been more than your brother. You should have something extra over your brothers, and that is the kuna. So the word Seis means the kuna. How does the word Seis mean the kuna? Loshen Nesias Kapayim. It's different. Loshen Nesias Kapayim. Nesias Kapayim means picking up the hands. The Keyanim Duchen. They give Bechas Keyanim. And they do it through Nesias Kapayim. So the word Seis, which is from the same Shadish as Nesias Kapayim, refers to Kuna. And what he said is, Yeser, say you should have gotten extra over your brothers, the Seis. The Yeser Oz, it says you should have gotten more than your brothers with Oz. That means Malchus. Oz is strength, Malchus, that means Malchus. And then Rashi continues, Pshat in the Pasuk. What caused that you should lose all that? Pachas Kamayim. Pachas means rushing like water. It means HaPachas HaBehola Shemiharto. The rush and the confusion that you rushed to show your anger. You got angry very fast. And what did you do? And the pasuk continues that what you did was you desecrated Hashem who lies on the bed. That means, the way Rashi explains, that it means that when Rachel passed away, so Yaakov took his bed, which was usually in the room, the Eil of Rachel, and he put it in Bilha. That's the shifcha that given to Yaakov Avinu by Rachel. And Reuven felt that it was not the right thing to do, so he went to take Nemzachon for the cover of his mother, and he should have put it into Leah's. So he went and changed the bed, and Yaakov was very upset about it. And he did it very fast. That means the moment he saw it, he rushed and got angry, and he did it. So the pasuk says, the way Rashi explains, Lekach, therefore, because Pachas Kamayim, because you rushed to do this, like water that rushes, Al Teisar, you will not have those extra things. Altar belittle kola yiseras alola. You will not get extra to get these extra things. That were fit to you. You deserve them really because you're the pcher. Nevertheless, you will not get it because of that. That's the pshat in the pasuk. But the Rebbe says like this: the Targum Fatayim pasuk. The Targum, when he explains this pasuk, writes like this: He deserved to get 3 parts, 3 inyonim extra. And the Targum teaches is which 3? Bechayrusa, Kehunsa, Umalchusa. As Reuven should have gotten all 3 chalokim, which is Pcheira, the Pcheira being the firstborn and having the rights of a firstborn, Kahuna, and the Malchus and the kingship. They weren't given to him. Rabbi, in these madrashim, it also says there was 3 things. Now, where do we get the 3rd thing, Pcheira, the Pcheira that he didn't get? So, as we'll see from the Sikha, but what it means is that Targum learns that since the pasuk says Reuven Pcheiriato, first he mentions it, the Pcheira that he is. He's a Pcheir, which means he has the Pcheira. And then it says Yeser Seis Yeser. Also, really, there are 3 things mentioned here: the Pcheira and the Yeser Seis, which is the Kohuna, Yeser, which is the Malchus, and these are the 3 things that he didn't get. And the Medrash learns like that also. Now, I just want to mention before we go further, because it's going to be indicated further, that when he lost the Pcheira, he completely lost. The Kohuna, he lost it completely. The Keyanim did not come out from Reuven. When he lost the Malchus, the Malachim don't come out from Reuven. The Pcheira Reuven did get. When it says he lost the Pcheira, which the Targum says, means only part of the Pcheira, but there was a loss he had. And as we'll bring later, Rashi says, only Linyan Ashvatim. Lagabe other things, he had the din of a Pcheir. But Lagabe Shvatim, really, he should have been divided into 2 Shvatim, which means he should be an extra Shevet. The Peil, Yaakov took it away from him and gave it to Yosef. So Yosef's 2 children became 2 Shvatim. That's the Bechira that was taken away. But here it's not Negeya whether it take away completely or not, but there was a certain aspect in the Bechira that was taken away from him, and that's what the Targum says as the other Midrash. Daarom verstehen the Rebbe says we have to understand, the Balder Posik, the Mont Eich, the Meile from Bechira, since the Posik mentions also this Meile that he has that he was a Bechir, Vavosha lent Rasha, as Al Teiser, but sits in place, so yes, says, yes, Kuna Malchus. So why does Rasha learn that when he said you should have gotten extra and you didn't, only refers to the other two, to Kuna Malchus, and not concerning when the Pasuk says you are my Bcheir, that's the beginning of the Pasuk. So if the Pasuk mentions that, and that's the first thing the Pasuk mentions, so I'll be pshat, you should have learned that that was also taken away. But is there time for Kuna Malchus? Those words that you are my Bcheir is the reason why he deserved Be'emes to get the Kuna Malchus. So certainly that's something that should have been mentioned in Rasha, that he took away this too. So why does Rasha only mention that he took away the two of Kahuna and Malchus? Ich kann nicht sagen, als Rasha halt, als auf die Pschute schon Mikro ist Bechede verrufen und nicht zugenommen geworden. In other words, it's possible to say maybe Rasha learns that the Inyan of Bechede was not taken away from Reuven, even though we find it in other places in Chazal, but we know the Klal, the Rasha in Pschute shel Mikro is not limited to follow what it says in Medrashim and places like that, because Rasha goes in the Derech HaPshat. So maybe Rasha learns that in Pshat, in Derech HaPshat, it doesn't say that the Bechede was taken away. So that's why Rasha can't learn that way. But you can't say that. Whereas there's a clear posik in Tanakh, in Divrei Hayomim, it says, Ubnei Ruvain, Bechei Yisrael, that the children of Reuven, who was the Bechei, when he desecrated the bed of his father, Nitna Becheiros el Ubnei Yosef. The Bechei was given to the Yosef children. So there's a posik in Tanakh that says clearly that the Bechei was taken away. Even though it's a part of the Bechei, but there was a part of the Bechei taken away. So you can't learn that Rasha holds that in Pshat, the Bechei was not taken away. Noch mehr, see more than that. With the etliche psukim früher, the few psukim before, is Rasha allein befarish l'teim pirish. According to one pshat, Rasha says, Shechem echad hu abcheira, and it says, Yaakov told Yosef that I'm giving you a Shechem echad, the extra chelik. Shechem Rasha means a chelik. So Rasha says, what is he giving the extra chelik to Yosef? The bcheira. Sheyit lebono from Yosef shnei chalokim, that the children of Yosef will take 2 shares, and means divided into 2 parts. And that's so we see clearly that Rasha himself brings that the Bechira to a certain degree was taken away from Reuven and given to Yosef. And noch free in Pasha Vayishlach, and even early in Pasha Vayishlach is Rasha Mafarash. Rasha says, when it says there that Reuven is Bechir Yaakov, Rasha says it means Bechir Lenachle, Bechir to inheritance, like every Bechir gets double inheritance. Bechir LaAveda, he's a Bechir to do the Aveda. That means the Aveda, which later went over to the Kehanim, but originally it was going to be by the Bechirim. So Reuven still had it, and Bechei Minyan, to be counted, he was the first, but the only thing Bechei that was given to Yosef is the Kabbah, the Shvatim, Shenasa Lishnei Shvatim, turned to Shvatim. So what do we see from here? Das heißt, we see from here, as he's zugenommen geworden, the Bechei Linyan Shvatim for Reuven. So from the Pasuk, from Rashi himself, he says the Bechei was taken away. Only Lagabe the Shvatim, true, but the some part of the Bechei was taken away from Reuven. So the Vayishka, because what the Pasuk says, what he did with the bed of Bilah. Once he given geworden to Yosef, it was given to Yosef. So it's clear that Rasha does learn that the Bechei was taken away also. Also the Bechei was taken away from Reuven. So why does the Rasha mention? The Churah we can't sagen, the Rebbe is al Churah say like this. From the Koloshen Akos, the Rebbe is going to bring a raya that from the Pasuk itself, we see that we don't count the Bechei. Why? The Pasuk says Al Teisar. He says, because Pachas Kamayim Al Teisar, because you rushed and you did what you did, you will not get the Teisar. What is Teisar? But the Pasuk benutzt, the Pasuk uses the same word in Shaykhat Sukol Eilev Asuruven et Mafsid given. When he talks to Reuven, the Pasuk, let's look back at the Pasuk. It says Yeser Seis v'Yeseros. So where does it say the word Yeser? Extra. Only B'negei Seis, which is Tuhune, and B'negei to Oz, which is Malchus. And then he says Al Teisar. You will not get these 2 things which are Yeser. So what is the Pasuk talking about? Only about these 2 things. Is Muchach, from that's proven that their Pasuk is Ulisens Mamayza, not the Miles, Vavel Cheshtei the Loshen for Yiseiris Halolu. It's Rashi says that he took away from him the Yiseiris Halolu, the extra. So only those things with the Torah, the Pasuk uses the word Yeser. Yeser says for Yeseros, which is Kuna Malchus. Hashem can Milas Bechei, but the Mile of having the Bechei was wird nicht der Mond der Loschen yesterday in the Pasuk, it doesn't say about yesterday. It's not nichlel in the miyut from Alteisa. That's not included when the Torah says you're going to lose Alteis, you're going to lose the Yeseris. So we see from the Pasuk that it doesn't include losing the Bchera or a part of the Bchera. So Bela, this answers the question. That's why Rashi says that the Pasuk is telling you he only lost the Kuna and the Malchus. But this is not a raya, it's a Loshen HaKosu, the Pirish HaKosu. All this proves is that the Pasuk is not referring to losing the Bchera. That yet, because the Pasuk, that's the Loshen of the Pasuk. This Pasuk is not talking about the loss of the Bchera. But it doesn't mean the Pasuk says that he didn't lose the Bchera. Forget, we said before that he did lose the Bchera. Elamai, we know that this Pasuk is not talking about it. It's bleibt aber nicht verstandig, the Taf and Etzaminian. So the Kash is now on the Pasuk itself. What's the Kash? For what is Bchera anders from Kuna Malchus? Why is Bchera different than Kuna Malchus? But the Pasuk redt nor wegen Reuven's Hefset from Kuna Malchus, nicht wegen seinem verlieren the Minyan of Bchera, Linyan of Shvatim. Why does the Pasuk not mention it? It's not a pshat that from the Pasuk we see that he didn't lose it. We know that he lost it, as we brought rayas from before. Elamai, we have a raya that this Pasuk is not talking about it. So it's not Kasha and Rashi. And Rashi, we have no Kasha. Why he doesn't mention it? Because the Pasuk is not talking about it. As we see, it's only talking about the Yeser. But the Kasha is on the Pasuk. So why does the Pasuk not mention that he also lost the Bchera? That's one thing in this Rashi. Then the Rebbe is going to connect it to another Rashi and then come back to the combination of both. Weiter from Pasuk, Gur Ari Yehuda. Later on the Pasuk, when he spoke to Yehuda, he said, Gur Ari Yehuda, you are like a lion, like a young lion. Miterev B'ni Elisa, which means Miterev from the murder, so to speak, from the killing. B'ni Elisa, my son, you disconnected, so to speak. You went about, in other words, he didn't do it. Rashi, what does the Pasuk mean? What did Yaakov mean when he said Miterev B'ni Elisa? You were elevated, you were away, disconnected to the teref of what? So Rashi said Miterev means I suspected that you did something to him, because by the Yosef is when he brought to Yaakov the shirt and the blood. So Yaakov said, "Torah Yosef." So they told Yosef, they told the father that a wild animal ate him up. So he thought Yehuda, that goes on Yehuda, because Yehuda is Nimshul Arya. He's compared to a lion when it says So he thought that maybe this is Yehuda, and Yehuda was the one that did it. But he tells him no. From this teref, from this killing of Yosef, which I thought, B'ni Elisa, my son, you were away from it. In other words, salaktas atzmacha. You forget, you stayed away from it. But Martha, you said ma betza. You said ma betza kenara gesechli. In other words, we look back at the psukim of Vayechi. Yehuda said, what are we going to gain by killing our brother? Let's take him out of the pit and let's sell him. So Yaakov says, so you are not the one that caused his death when he thought that he died. You're not the one that killed himself, that caused the murder. So that's what he means. Miterev B'ni Elisa, my son, which means Yehuda, my son, you, my son, you are away from the teref of Yosef. V'cheirash adds, also by Rikas Tamar. They came to kill Tamar when found out that Tamar is pregnant. And Yehuda first said that she has to die because this is something that was Chayiv Misa, whatever pshat in the psukim are. And then when she said, Shaheda, when she said that I'm pregnant to this man that gave me the money, the sticks, whatever, the tabas. So he admitted. He said, that's me. So he admitted. So he avoided Tamar from dying. So when the Pasuk says here, you avoided, you disconnected yourself from killing somebody. So Rashi says first it's from Yosef and also from Tamar. This is the Rashi. The Rebbe is a different verstehen, we have to understand. From them was Rashi is Messi. This is that Rashi adds that the same thing is when the guy killing Tamar. In sein Pirish of B'ni Elisa. Where does Rashi say it? Here every word is Meduyik, and every place where the words are written is Meduyik. See, Rashi first explains the word Miteref. And Teref means from killing Yosef. B'ni Elisa, my son Yehuda, you stayed away from it. And then when after he teaches the word B'nei Elisa, he brings that you also did not kill Tamar. You were made and Mela, she did not die. Why doesn't Rashi say this when he says on the word Miteref? Simple pshat seems he's saying two times that could have been that you could have had a chelik in killing somebody, and both times Miteref, from that killing, you're not there. What are the two? From killing Yosef and killing Tamar. But Rashi doesn't do that. Rashi doesn't say the word about Tamar on the words Torah, Miteref. He says it, a B'ni Elisa, only the Ferushe of word Miteref. He says it after he teaches B'ni Elisa. So he says you stayed away from this that he said before, which is Yosef. And then he added on B'ni Elisa, you stayed away from killing Tamar. Is Muchach, since he says it there, seems clear, as v'chein ba'arigas Tamar v'chulu, when he says also from killing Tamar, you stayed away, but tzitzich nitzim v'ort meterev. That doesn't apply to the word meterev. That would mean that the word meterev also includes ma'arigas Tamar, that you stayed away from killing Tamar. The Medrash does say that. Miterev, mitir fashal Tamar. He says from killing Tamar. So from Rashi, who doesn't say it on those words, nor to divert Bnei Elisa, Rashi, it's connected to the fact that he says, my son, you stayed away. As Elisa made, Teref only goes on Yosef, that you didn't kill Yosef. When I thought he died, it wasn't you who did it. And then he says, Bnei Elisa, that you stayed away, this already includes something else also. In addition to the Yosef, it includes that you didn't kill Tamar. That's how it seems from Rashi. We don't understand. Since Bnei Elisa is a hemsha, comes in continuation to word meterev, die käme as if another tale mit Teitschen as Bnei Elisa scale zwei Sachen, because as meterev means gleich eine Sache. The word meterev is one thing. Rashi learns it's one thing. See, Rashi had he said both on that, so meterev means both. Meterev seems to Rashi means one thing, means only Yosef. And the Bnei Elisa, that you stayed away, you're above it, whatever the type is, how that you stayed away from it, then things that you stayed away from killing. But if the posik, the words benishas, all that goes up to. That's one kasha. Eiches nicht nur, it's also not understood. Was is l'chlal the hechrech im Pshuta shemikr zu sagen, als mit Elisa hat Yanke gemeint, nicht nur der Chshad of Torah of den of Yosef, nicht von der Stomach. Where does Rashi get it? Rashi, everything takes from Pshat, from Pshuta shemikra. Where do we see in the posik that when he said, you stayed away, you were beyond the Teref, means not only Teref, Torah of Yosef, which fits because it's the same word Teref, but it also means that you stayed away from killing Tamar. But Rashi sagt nicht wie im Medrash, hat das eine zwei Pirushim. See, maybe Rashi would say another pshat. One pshat it means Yosef, one pshat it means Tamar. So you could say, okay, Tamar was also almost killed. You could touch somehow. In the Medrash it says that. It's like a two pirushim. But Rashi doesn't do that. Nor as Meisif al Tzahemshech v'chein b'arigas Tamar. He doesn't say Dovarach another pshat. He says Yosef and also Tamar. That goes on both. So Rashi learns that this posik includes both, not or this, but both. Where does Rashi get that this includes also that he's telling him that you're not the one that caused you stayed away from killing Tamar? Where does it say that? So the Rebbe says like this, a lot of details in the Sikha, we have to follow all the words here. The first question we could have answered like this. What again was the first question? How could this Tamar, the Bnei Elisa, include two things? And the Rebbe said, it's talking about Tamar. But first he asked, how could that one, the word Bnei Elisa, which is behemshech to Miterev, should include two things if Miterev includes one? So the Rebbe says an interesting shot here. Rashi meint to sagen that Miterev sitzach zu beide Yosef and Tamar. Maybe it's not like we said before. That's why if you notice before when he said that since Rashi doesn't say Tamar on the word Terev, is that it's not from Terev. So the Rebbe added the word before in parentheses l'chore, because now the Rebbe is going to say that it's not l'chore. You could have said that. The Rebbe says no. Not like that. The Rebbe says now that it goes on both. Miterev taka goes on both. The Rebbe had that ayah that it doesn't go on Tamar because Rashi brings Tamar only on the word Bnei Elisa. So the Rebbe says like this: and when why does Rashi write that you stayed away from killing Tamar only after he explains what Bnei Elisa means? He says it there to tell us how the word Bnei Elisa could go on both. Could go on Tamar also, because we asked Akasha, how could it go if this only goes on Yosef and Bnei Elisa is behemshech to Terev? So how could it go on both? This is going to be answered by Rashi. He said, like, first to bring this in. There are two ways to touch the posik. Miterev, Bnei Elisa. The question is going to be, the word Bnei goes on who? Does Bnei go on Yosef or does the Bnei go on Yehuda? You could touch the word Miterev, Bnei go together. From killing my son, Elisa, you. That means the first way is Bnei kum to hemshach zum wort Miterev. Bnei comes to connection to the word Miterev, which means Miterev Bnei, from killing my son, which is Yosef. Elisa, you got up, you were beyond that. That's on Yehuda. But the second way to learn is b'ni bat tzitzich zu alisa. You have to read it like this: miteref b'ni alisa, from killing, miteref from inyan ateref, from killing, which killing who? Yosef. B'ni alisa hastu mein zun Yehuda elegiven. You went up, and the word b'ni goes on Yehuda. Is eben the end on the Mersham shot. If we learn like the first shot that the b'ni goes on Yosef, b'ni is mechuber to miteref. The b'ni is connected to the miteref killing of my son. Kemen itlen and miteref b'ni is kela lech tomar. You can't learn that word miteref goes on tomar. It says clearly miteref b'ni, from killing my son. Tomar is not a son, so obviously you can't learn that it means also tomar. Und der Riber, therefore, Eider Rasha is meisi b'chein b'adigas tomar. Before Rasha adds that this also goes on killing of tomar, muss sich früher aufstellen der b'ni alisa. So first he has to choose what the b'ni alisa means, that my son, you elevated. Und bavoren has again zusammen. And by doing that, he's telling us that the word b'ni does not go on the beginning on teref, but b'ni alisa goes on Yehuda. But the father is Rasha meitik from posek eivlev word b'ni. And by the way, that's why Rasha also brings the word b'ni. Doesn't, even though he teaches b'ni alisa means you disassociated. So why does Rasha have to bring the word b'ni? He should say alisa. What does alisa mean here? Misalik from it. He quotes the word b'ni also. Chochas to sein pirish salaktas has because no negate the word alisa. Rasha teaches alisa means salaktas. So he should have said alisa salakta. Why does he b'ni? Was dafke wie sehr kann der Wort Teref in sich keil sein 2 Jahre nach Mecharikas Tomer. Only if we learn that the b'ni goes on Elisa, so he brings b'ni, so now we could bring in Tomer. But what does he mean that the word Teref goes on Tomer also? But he couldn't say it unless he first said that b'ni goes on Elisa. So Teref means killing. Killing who? Whoever. Could be killing Yosef, could be killing Tomer. That these are the two what he meant. B'ni, my son Yehuda, you stayed away from both of them. Now, Rashi really means, as we said, that Tomar is also learned out to Miteref. But Rashi just writes it later to tell you how he could learn like that. But what first Rashi learned? That's all based that since the word B'ni goes on Yehuda, B'mele you could learn Miteref goes on Tomar also. But where does Rashi get this? That it's like maybe the Pshat is the other way. Maybe the B'ni goes on Yosef, Miteref B'ni, and then you couldn't learn that it goes on Tomar. So the Rebbe says, where does Rashi get this from? Yankov But Yankov is trying to do here, praise Yehuda. And we bald as eich onder is soften from B'ni, versteht man am Teref geht of Yosef. Now, if without the word B'ni, just the word Meteref, we understand it goes on Yosef. The bald we find in the Lashon Teref, by Yosef we find Teref. So the Torah did not have to write the word B'ni. It said Meteref Alisa, from killing. And it means Yosef, Alisa, you stayed away from it. So why does he add the word b'ni? B'meili the adgosha as meterev does from b'ni nit kan teis v'shvach. Elamai the posek wants to stress that it's my son. Now, if you learn like that it goes terev b'ni goes together. So why is he saying meterev b'ni? Why is he bringing something from killing of my son? We know it means Yosef. So he wants to stress. You should know that you did not kill my son. Now, is that adding shvach, adding praise to Yehuda, or taking away praise? This is not adding any praise. But this is taking away from the praise. Does Gita Nesinas Mokim to sagen, this gives a place to say, nor der Farval dos is teref von Yank's Sohn und sein Bruder, it's as if saying, because it's my son, that's why you didn't kill him. That doesn't add praise. Praise would be that you didn't kill somebody. But if you give a reason, because it's your relative, it's my son, it's your brother, you didn't do it, that minimizes in the praise. Why would the Pasuk do that? Why would Yaakov do that? So therefore, we have to learn that the B'ni does not go on Meteref. The Leib is Pshuta Shal Mikra with the Zweite Reifen, Meteref B'ni, that from Meteref, from killing, B'ni, Yehuda, you, my son, Elisa, we take away. So B'meila, now we know that it includes also Tomar, and Kasha was, why doesn't Rashi say it by the word Meteref? Because Rashi wants to tell us that because the B'ni Elisa, the B'ni goes on Elisa, we could learn Meteref goes on Tomar also. Fine. Es bleibt aber nicht verstandig genau. The kasha still remains. Like we said before. Now that we said that Miterev doesn't go on my son, Miterev B'ni, then it couldn't go on Tomer, because he says killing my son. So now that it's not like that, so Miterev could go on Tomer also. True. So the kasha still remains. We know how Rashi could do it, how it could go on Tomar also. But what makes Rashi say that that's the pshat? What's machriya? What forces? You could say the other way also. In other words, if the word b'ni goes on terev, you cannot say tomar. Doesn't include tomar. But if b'ni goes on alisa, you could include tomar. Could, but doesn't mean that it has to. So what makes Rashi say it to be fratas by tomar? State in the loshem terev. Especially by tomar, the word terev is not written there. So why would Rashi say that? That und das verstehen bei Hagdam at mir close in the meaning. So we'll understand this by first giving a general kasha that we have here on this whole union. The Yisra Amalchus was the next kasha is a Meirige kasha. The Yisra Amalchus was zugenommen geworden for Reuven. The fact that the extra thing of having Malchus, Reuven should have had Malchus and it was taken away from him, is abgegeben geworden to Yehuda. Who got it? Yehuda. It steht in Divrei Yomim, it says a clear posik. After the pasuk where it says it's taken away from Reuven, to Yehuda govar be'ochiv v'lunogit mimena. That Yehuda was the one that got it, and that's the part shot in the pasuk as Meforshim say that Yehuda got the malchus that was supposed to go to Reuven. Yehuda got it. But those that Yankov gemeint when they were the good area Yehuda. So when Yankov spoke to Yehuda and he said you are like a lion, that's what he meant, that you got the malchus. The Rashi is mefarish. Rashi explains Ados is the reading malchus was is gegeben geworden. That this good area Yehuda, you're like a lion. It means the way Rashi says it means the malchus. David, Shloime, etc., etc. The time for was Matasagi, upgegeben to Yehuda. Oh. Now the Shiloh, why did it take away from Reuven? So the Pasuk says, because you mixed up the bed, whatever it is. But why was it given to Yehuda? Steht in the Brocha Gufe. So he says why? Miterev b'ni Elisa. Because you did not have a part in the killing. You did not have a part in the killing of, as Rashi says, in the killing of Yosef, so to speak, and in the killing of Tamar. Rashi is Messiah and Pirish, like Miterev b'ni Elisa. Rashi finishes on the words Miterev b'ni Elisa b'chein b'arigas Tamar, and after that lefichach. Therefore, Korah became it. Therefore, the pasuk continues. You will get the malchus. Okay, so you taken away from Reuven because of the chesron that he had, and given to Yehuda because Yehuda had a mile. Obviously, a mile over Reuven, and he had a mile that he safety. He didn't participate in the killing, etc. He's not moving. This is not understood. The Meile von Yehuda was sich Masala given von dem was Chashad Ticha betorf teref Yesef Chayrach Alasu. That the Meile of Yehuda is that he stayed away. He disconnected himself from this. That Yaakov was chesed him, suspected him in Torah teref Yosef that killing Yosef Chayrach Alasu. He said a wild animal killed him, thinking that it's Yosef, but he stayed away. What did he do? Where we see that he stayed away from that? Because he said, "Ma betza." He told his brothers, what are we going to gain by leaving him in the pit and letting him die and killing him? Let's sell him. This is his milah. So he saved his life, because if not for him, they could have killed him. He's doch echt given by Reuven. This milah that he had was by Reuven also. It says in Parashat Vayechi, as Reuven had gesagt, leina ken nefesh. He before Reuven said to the brother, they wanted to kill him, and he said, no, let's not kill him. Und nach dem Meile von Yehuda was made the given by Meister Tomer and Tzotkum and the second Meile Yehuda had. That by Tomer he didn't kill Tomer, and what did he do? He was made that he admitted that it's from him, and therefore he saved their life. Something like that we find by Reuven. As a tshuva geton of them was chilalti yitzuolah, that he did tshuva, and the fact that he mixed up and desecrated the bed and the shchina, whatever is connected to it, he has that too. Rashi is mefarish in Parsha Vayeshev. Rashi says in Vayeshev, why wasn't Reuven by the sale of Yosef? Because because he was involved in a sack and in fasting, that he did shuvah, what he did for the bed of Yaakov. So the same milah that Yehuda had, Reuven had. So why did they take it away from Reuven and give it to Yehuda? Because of these two milahs, when Reuven had the same milahs. In the Beit Protim is Reuven's milah, luchur aggressor of Yehuda. Rebbe is going into very detail how the same two milas that Yehuda had, Reuven also had it in a bigger way, a stronger way. And the Rebbe explains how. Number one, those was Yehuda Matzak when Yosef and geharget werden. This that Yehuda saved Yosef from getting killed. He didn't do that, saved his life in order to bring him back to his father. Not to kill him, but sell him to the Yishmaelim. Especially number one, as er had bekechem zurück zu bringen zum Yankiv. He had the power of bringing him back. Rashi bringt Rob Rashi himself says, the Shvatim later told Yehuda, had you said to bring him back, we would have. So he had a chance to bring him back. He didn't do that. he saved him from getting killed, but he didn't bring him back, and when he could have done it. A second thing, as I zog ma betza, when he said ma betza what will we gain? What does that mean? Ma betza. Now the word betza means money. So Rasha Taich Kipirish Rasha, ma moment. What will we gain? What money will we gain if we kill him? That means that those was that neither lost Mizolim Harganen. This that he didn't allow to kill Yosef is so the town was me wohl davon gar nicht verdient. Only the reason because he wouldn't gain anything. Und der Rebbe hat gesagt, let's sell it, we'll make some money at least. Verdienen moment, make money. So what's such a great thing that he did that he saved him? Taka saved him. But the greatness is very limited because he could have done better and he didn't. What he said, don't kill him. He planned to bring it back to Yankee with the Pasuk Zog with footage. The Pasuk says clearly, the man that he said, let's not kill him, and he had a mind to bring him back. So that's one thing that we see that by Reuven, that was even more than by Yehuda. The second thing, Negei Tomer, by the Heidof on Yehuda, Maisa Tomer, when Yehuda admitted the story of Tomer and saved her life, number one, gefindt man nor sein Eimolik and Zogen Tzot Community. Where do we see he did Tshuva? Once. They wanted to kill him, he said, no, she's right, it's me, and therefore don't kill her. A second thing, the Iker mainly, Eberwald nicht made the fact that he was made is not such a big thing, because had he not been made, what would have happened? He would have caused Tomer to be killed, and the twins, the children that were inside her. He's moving now, Yehuda was made, so for sure Yehuda was made, because if not, what would be such a terrible thing? Dagegen by Reuven, when we look by Reuven, number one is the tshuva given in Eif, nas kama v'kama yorn nachdem at teres chalz mamshik ben tshuva. He did tshuva not once, years. He continued doing tshuva. Vor mechira seisiv given geshem mit arum 9 years noch bilbo yitzuavit. The sale of Yosef is about 9 years after he did that, what he did with the bed, and he still was doing tshuva because he wasn't there by the sale of Yosef because he was still doing tshuva. So that's a tshuva, that's a long tshuva. And the second thing, tshuva given in Eif von osek b'sakevit anisa. It wasn't just he admitted. He was involved. He was involved fasting and put on a sack like those years he used to put on a sack to show for tshuva. So it's a strong tshuva. And the third thing, the pula from Bilbo Yitzu Ovi was given Kipirish Rashi about Tova El Panime. What was the bad thing that he did? Reuven, that he had to do tshuva. He mixed up the bed. He put the bed of his mother into Yaakov's house, Yaakov's room. He did it not because he wanted to do something bad. He did it because he felt that this was an embarrassment for his mother. That was geton to keep it aim. He did it because this was the way he was giving honor to his mother. It's not even considered in Chumash as a sin. The Rasha brings that up. Rasha writes, after it says what he did, it says all the names of the Shvatim. So Rasha says to teach you that they're all the same. They're all tzaddikim. Reuven didn't sin, even though he did something wrong. But obviously it's so small that it's not considered a sin. Therefore, even when it talks about him, and the Aveira he did, still calls him Chair. And from deswegen hat Reuven Marbet given mit Tshuva. He did a lot of Tshuva. So Reuven is doing Tshuva is much stronger than Yehuda. So Reuven's both things. When he saved Yosef, Reuven wanted to save Yosef from being killed and had intentions to bring him back, which Yehuda didn't, and they would brought him that I've said before. And when the Negei Tomar, which he did Tshuva, Reuven did much better than that. In a smaller Aveira, and he did a longer Tshuva, and a lot of more things. How could this that he did not kill Yosef, or even when Yaakov thought that he died, it wasn't him. That could be a reason as Yehuda is roy to Malchus mer wie Reuven. Yehuda deserves Malchus more than Reuven, and this is a very strong kasha. Just want to mention that the Rebbe was careful not to make exaggerations. In other words, when the Rebbe would write a kasha, I remember when we wrote to us sometimes. This has a big kasha. The Rebbe would cross out the word big. Kasha gdeilu no. This is very schwer. Kosher ma'ed, he would talk about. He didn't like the exaggerating words. So we understand when the Rebbe writes an exaggerated word, it's like a big kasha. So when he says it, Tumua b'yeser, it's like a big pellet. So this will be understood by explaining what Yaakov said to Reuven. What did he say to him? Why did he lose the extra things he was supposed to get? Because you rushed like water to do what you did. Rashi explains. Rashi is Mefarish explains. What caused you to lose everything? Pachas kamayim. The rush of the water. That the rush and the confusion that you ran right away and you got angry. Lekach, therefore, al teisa, therefore you will not gain the extra thing. Al tarba little kol yiseres halolu, you will not get the extra thing you're supposed to get because you rushed to mao apachas. The truth is that in the beginning, when Rashi says pshat that it was your rush and your anger, Rashi doesn't even say the gaba which aveda. Rashi just says the rush. You rushed and you got angry for something, and then Rashi says mao apachas. What did you rush to? Asher pachasdo that you rushed to. Rashi is mamsech and pirish. If also. He goes continue that it was because of the bed that he mixed up the bed, etc., etc. So we see here an interesting thing. From Hemshech Loshen Rashi is moving from the way Rashi writes his Pirish, we understand. The reason why he didn't get all these extra things is need the etzem peula from the Lisa Mishka. It's not because of what he did that he took away, so to speak, the Shechina, Rashi says, from the bed by moving the bed. That is the beta that because of that you lost all these things. Nor the pachas kamayim, the fact that you rushed like water. The fact that you rushed and you got confused and you ran with your anger. So the problem is the rushing and the anger. What was the anger about? So Rashi says, what was that? It happens to be that this wasn't the minyan from Alisa, the minyan top of the bed. But the problem is that Rashi is saying here, why did he lose these two things? Is because of the rush into it, of the anger. So says it means like this. The fact that Yankov mentions before he even mentions what he did, he mentions the rush to with the anger as that's the separate as a separate problem besides the Aveda itself. Learn to Rashi Arui says in the Inyan from Bilbo Yitzui obvious and not zwei pro. So Rashi learns in this problem that he did, there are two details, two things there. Number one, the etzem Bilbo, the fact that he mixed up the bed, that's a problem. Yeah, it's a problem. But the second thing is Vados is given an Nathan for Bachas Kamayim. The fact that it was rushed and you got involved in it very without thinking, you did it like that. So since there are two problems here, since there are two problems, so there are two punishments. For them, number one, for them was it Maval given the Tzu Ovid is from Zugenumen geworden the Pchede. This that he lost the Pchede, and we said before he did lose the Pchede. Not completely, but Lagabe the Shvatim he lost the Pchede. That's not the Yeser here, but Lopel he lost the Pchede. That came for what he did with the bed. It says clearly. It says clearly that because he was Michal desecrated the bed, that's why the Pchede was taken away from him. When the Rasha brings the Rob gleich in Pasha Vayishlach, at mitnem Pchede liyesef, and Vayishlach Rasha says it was given to Yosef. So the Pchede was taken away from Ruvain because of mixing up the bed. And the second thing, base the far was Pachas Kamayim, since you rushed, you rushed in your anger, is Altaisa. For that, you will not get the extra things what the Posik refers to as Yeser. Altar little kola Yeseris halol. You will not take the Yeseris, Kehuno Malchus, which Kehuno Malchus as Kanal Sibes, like the Rebbe said before, that Rashi is saying that you lost the Yeseris, the Yeser Seis, the Yeseros, which Kehuno Malchus. And that came as a result of the second thing, the fact that it was Pachas. Now, what is the connection? Why it was for the Etzem Aveda, he took away the Bechera. And for the Pachas, which is for the Russian, etc., took away Kehuno Malchus. What's the connection? The beer in them. So the Rebbe brings the beer in. The chiluk zwischen Kuna Malchus and Pchera. What is the difference between these two things? There are three things here, but Kuna Malchus is one category and Pchera is another category. The difference is like this. The Mailas in Kuna Malchus wirken sich aus Biker, befreit wenn Yanein und Sheiches andere. The Mail of Kuna Malchus mainly is the connection that you have to others, especially in the way we see it here. In ze vernehmen sich mit anderen. Kuna Malchus is the main thing is in their connection, being involved with others. And he explains how. In Yonah von Amelech is, what's the Yonah of a king? As a Yetzel Lifnein, you go out for the Eden, you come in for the Eden, you take care of the Eden. So by sorgen the Yonah with Zrochim von der Medina and as weiter. To make sure that the country, the people have what they need. So you're caring about other people. When we Rasha touched of Gur, and Rasha says, Gur Aryeh, Rasha says, this goes on being king, goes on David, who takes in and takes out the Eden, takes care of the Eden. On a Korah Rovatz, and when it says Korah Rovatz, which means he bent down, Rashi means that it was a time of Shleime, Ishtach as Gafne, each person had his field and had his trees and had his Geffen vineyards. So it's all talking about the Malchus by Yehuda, and it brings out the Malchus has to do with other people, that you make sure that the people have everything they need, etc., etc. Azayach Kuna is also connected to others. Was from Irenyonim Ikrim is the main things. One of the main things is the Rasha Tajdorf Yesa says Messias Kapayim. Yesa says Rasha says means the duchening, picking up the hands. That's one of the main things of a kohen. Ben Sheniden, to Ben Sheniden. This is again the connection to other Yidden. Eich, Lernen, this is in brackets because it's not hinted in the posik, but nevertheless, what's the union of a kohen? Lernen mit Yidden the halachas v'dinei HaTorah, to teach Yidden the halachas and the dinim of Torah. If state says another posik, Bosa la kohanim. You have a question, go to the kohanim. You give the chazvar mishpat, and they will tell you the law based on the Torah that you will teach. So we see that Malchus and Kahuna have to do with your connection of helping others. Shenke B'cheira is a mile was is begate B'cheira lane. B'cheira is a mile. B'cheira is choshev azach. It's a person's chshivas, his own chshivas. So if der mile chshivas B'cheira bekommt pishnayim benachlo, because he's a choshev a person and he has the mile of B'cheira. That's why he gets double share in the nachla, etc., etc. Because nicht b'shachas mit atzveit, but it has nothing to do with others. Und das ist der Asbore in die zwei Protim anal. That's the connection, the explanation in these two things. The linie from Pachas Kamai mehart elaris kascho, when it says you rushed and you showed that your anger is, as we nor si ba muzik kumen as nicht gewe ave darfen sein bei Leib. The moment that he thought that the Leah's bed should have been in Yaakov's place, in Yaakov's room, he's beim geworden kas auf atzveit. He got angry on what? Got angry on Yaakov, got angry on others. When there was the tongue, take it from Yad, and right away he went and acted upon it. Right away you rushed and you showed your anger. And you mixed up the bed. So what is the problem here? The problem is, what did you do to somebody else? You were behaving not in a proper way to somebody else. It's complete opposite of caring about somebody else. The Rabbi is saying that so the punishment for rushing and, in other words, caring only, not caring for them. In other words, think to yourself, think before you do. You're going to hurt somebody. He didn't care. As long as he felt it was no good, he was going to do it. So the Rabbi punished him. He took away from him this chshivus of caring for others, which is Kuna is caring for us, Malchus is caring for us. They took away. But the main problem of ruining the bed of his father was that shows that he made a mistake. He thought, as that because first my mother's sister was a problem for my mother, and now her shifcha is going to be a problem for my mother. So because of that, he thought so this father's bed should be in the Eil of Leah. So it's a mistake. He thought that's the Etzem Aveda. That's a mistake he made in his calculations. The other one is a mistake in not caring about others. This is a mistake in himself. He made a wrong calculation. He thought it's supposed to be done. So he lost something that shows chshivas in himself. So what did he lose because of that? The b'cheira, which we said before, is a mile in the person himself, has nothing to do with others. And this is something that has nothing to do with others. Here we're talking about his mistake. You did a problem. You made a mistake. And for that mistake, you're a sufferer, and you took away the b'cheira. This explains the main chilik as like Pirish Rashi. This explains another prat. We took David took away, or Yaakov took away the b'cheira from Reuven, but he didn't take it away completely, as we said before. The Kuna Malchus he took away completely. B'cheira he only took away partially. He was remained a b'cheira for the nachla, etc., etc. But not zugenommen the b'cheira linyan hashvatim, or look at whether it's two shvatim or one. Or Kuna Malchus was in ganze verloren. When the Malchus he lost completely. Why take? What's the difference? So the Rebbe now explains. We understand it. From since the main, till now we thought, what was the main problem with Reuven? That he mixed up the beds. Now the Rebbe came out that the mixer is a problem, but not the main problem. Main problem is that he got in cast and couldn't care what's going to cause the other problems. So he says it's not so chomer. But Reuven's kavoni given to Tavez and Yolvanim. All he wanted was to keep it aim. He wanted to take away the embarrassment of his mother. These as Rashi is mafarish canal sifei lichot Reuven. It wasn't even the sin. Rashi says a real sin because he didn't. It wasn't such a terrible thing because he meant, so to speak, well, what he did. And therefore, even when they talk about what he did, the problem he did, we still call him B'cher. Und sein Tshuva ist gewesen an Reifen von Osagoi Besake mit der Nisse Kammer bekam schon, when he did Tshuva and he was involved in fasting and many, many years. The Rebbe hat man bleib zugenommen the B'cher Linyan HaShvotim. That's why they only took away the B'cher a little bit, only Rabbi the Shvotim. Because the Aveda is not so big. The other prat, the Kaas was a big thing that you showed that you don't care about others. So how could you be Kuna and Malchus, which is negate to others? But here, it was a mistake and it's not good. And therefore you lost, but not everything, because it's not the most terrible thing. Das ist echt der Hasbore, but the yes for Malchus is abgegeben geworden zu Yehuda, to them was Matera ben Elisa. Now we'll answer the other kasha. The main kasha, one of the main kashas in the Sikha was that whatever Yehuda's Maila is, Reuven had the same Maila and even stronger. So what's the pshat? They took it away from Reuven because he didn't have this Maila, had the Cheson, and gave it to Yehuda who had the Maila. But Reuven had the same Maila. That was the question. Now we'll understand why the Malchus is abgegeben geworden zu Yehuda, to them was Matera ben Elisa. Because he did not kill, so to speak, Yosef. We said before that Reuven had the same saving Yosef in a bigger, in a stronger way. Now we understand. The chilek between B'terah ben Yosef and Yehuda and Reuven. The difference between saving Yosef, between what Reuven did and what Yehuda did, we'll see. Durch B'terah ben Yosef and Yehuda is l'peil laruzi kumen atzola for atzveit. When he saved Yosef and said, let's not kill him, what happened to end? Somebody was saved. Yosef was saved. Yehuda zogen by Betzer game. When Yehuda said, what are we going to gain by killing him? Hot matzil given Yosef und Argena. That saved Yosef. Otherwise, he wouldn't say that, they would have killed him. But the Maruz genommen from the bear. But to come out of the bear was the The bear at the pit he was thrown in has snakes and scorpions. So had they left him there, not taken them out, he would have got killed. In Derech HaTeva, would have died. Until the Zayin zogen tzotkomen. The same thing with the second thing. When he said in the Gei Tomer that you shouldn't kill her because she's right, and he admitted it's him, his Tomer Gerate was given for safe. A Pasha just saved somebody from being burned, from being killed. So what Yehuda did, as we said, there's a Maile Reuven, but Lepel Mamish, it was negated to save somebody else. By Reuven, Hagam is ein Tshuva, Kavon is ein Gresse ve Yehudas. His Tshuva and his Kavon, what he wanted to do, he wanted to save Yosef completely and bring him home, was greater than Yehuda. He's a Maila Nim Shalasif. That's a Maila that he had himself. Not by saving somebody else. When he said, let's not kill him, so what did he say instead should we do? Let's throw him in the pit. And the reason he did it, to save him and bring him back to the father. What does that show? It shows that he intended to bring him home. That's something in his mind. By throwing him into the pit, he wasn't protected from dying. Because had they left him in the pit, he would die from hunger. Only thing that would happen is it shouldn't be that we killed him. That would have saved. But he didn't take him away from the sakon of dying. Especially that it had snakes and scorpions. So leaving in the bed, he could have died from hunger, and he could have died by being bitten by scorpions and snakes. Could be in Pshat. It doesn't say that Reuven knew that there were scorpions there. Maybe he didn't know. So mainly it's not his fault that he's in a place where he could die. Whether he made in the mind or not, but what he did was he left him in sakana. So he didn't do anything to actually save his life. So that's Yehuda has that mile, the Gabe saving somebody else, saving Yosef. Reuven, great things and great kavanah, but it was only his kavanah. I say when again Milas Tshuva Reuven, the same thing we said that Reuven did a greater Tshuva than Yehuda, true. Also he fasted and he was masak and all this because he did this to the bed of the father. He is had nothing to do with somebody else. He did Tshuva for his bad behavior, that's all. Noch mehr, wenn Reuven wollte nicht geben, was besagt mit Hadith, that's another word. Had he not been busy doing this Tshuva, he might have found a way to save Yosef. Just like before, he said, let's not kill him. And they listened. He could have found another way and that saved him. So what happened with his doing tshuva? For him, it was great. But as far as affecting the other person, Yosef, it didn't help. And not only that, could be made it even worse. Otherwise, he might have saved him. So he could have found a way to save him. To bring him back to their father. Because he was involved in his own things. He was involved in great things. Fasting in the sack. Tshuva. The bottom line is, he was involved in his own things. He's gekommen zu Mechiras Yosef, that brought to Mechiras Yosef. Und der Rebbe is dafke der Meter of Bnei Elisa von Yehuda. Dafke the fact that Yehuda saved Yosef, did not kill Yosef. Sein Einstellen sich lepeil for that zweiten. And he taking care of some of the saving Yosef, because he saved Yosef from death. Like a soldier, because of him, they sold him. But he saved Yosef from second of dying. Und sein Meide sein, and also when he admitted by Tomar, in Sheichen und Erzola von Atzweiten, is also saving somebody else, saving Tomar. Aber Weiss, that showed as a Royal Malchus, that he could be a Melech, which is Indian, is to care about somebody else. Hashenke Ruvain, but Ruvain was the great Leil von sein Tshuva Chulas Amayla for sich, his great Maila of Tshuva, great things that he did, but it's a Maila on his own Madrege. So therefore, Roya the Pcheire Bechlal, so he does fit Pcheire, that's why he did get Pcheire. A little bit was taken away, because after all, there's a problem there. But he kept Pcheire, aber nicht zu sein Oilem Luche, but the Luche, which is negated to somebody else, it doesn't fit. Okay, now is moving bepashtes for was Rashi is mefarish Meterab Bnei Elisa beide Sachen. This also explains in Sen bepashtes why Rashi learns when he says Meterab Bnei Elisa that my son, you stayed away from Teref, which means from killing Yosef, from what thinking that you killed Yosef, staying away from having him killed, and by Tomar beide Sachen Mechiras Yosef and Ma'aser Tomar, selling Yosef in the story of Tomar. How do you know that? Yankov had gewollt bringen the Meile from Yehuda l'gabe Reuven. What Yankov was trying to do here is show Reuven lost it and Yehuda got it, because Yehuda has a Meile. But the fight is good Aryeh, the Rinyan Amluch, Ibrahim giving burden to Reuven from Reuven to Yehuda. That's what he's saying. Why did I give it to Yehuda? Taken away from Reuven. So he's saying the Meile. So Yankov wanted to bring out the reason for it, the Meile of Yehuda over Reuven. Yes, by Reuven gefindt man zwei in Yonim. Since by Reuven we find two things. What did Yehuda do? And by Reuven do? Two things. He wanted to save Yosef, and he did tshuva for mixing up the bed. He's mistaber or at matish given Yehuda's mile in the Beit Yonim. So it makes sense that he wanted to show the mile of Yehuda in these two things. So that's why Rashi says so. Bepashta, when he says you did not kill, so one is not killing Yosef. You caused Yosef shouldn't die, and also you caused that Tomer shouldn't die, which is also the same two things. So there has to be two things here. So by him, it's two things that he did great things, but Yehuda has a mile in the two things are there. And that made Rasha say that it wasn't only the Torah from Yosef, but also from Tomar. The hero from them, the hero from this is simple, understood very simply. He is not allowed to be, he should be satisfied just with taking care of himself, caring about his own milas, his own shleimus, good things. And you have to get involved in loving another yid, in turn to do a teva to another yid, do a favor to another yid. Und noch mehr, goes in further. Since Avos is the whole Torah, is a feel when allein is nicht in Azahich Madrege wie Atzveite. So even if he's not in such a high Madrege like the other person, was he's in ganz reingetan in Ton Lil Ali of the Shleimus Atzveite. The other guy could be a second person who is much greater than you. He's learning all day and is involved in his whole mile is very much higher than you. That person is not involved in helping the others. And he does, so he's connected to the whole Torah. So since he's doing it Abbas Yisrael, he has the whole Torah where the other one doesn't. Nochmer, he does Beilit in the Titzos from the Tzvi Anhogas from Reuven. You see more. This you could see clearly in what was the result of the behavior of Reuven and the behavior of Yehuda. So there was Reuven being involved in fasting, all these things. What came from that out? Is geworden after Mechiras Yosef. Possible that caused Mechiras Yosef. If he wouldn't do that, and he would have avoided Mechiras Yosef. And if he caused Mechiras Yosef, what does that cause? That brought Mitzrayim. The Reish V'Sheresh V'Chol Golis, which is the head and the beginning of all Golis. So basically, it's a strange way that ever puts it. Reuven's tshuva brought Golis Mitzrayim. Reuven's tshuva brought Golis. This Golis because everything started from Mechiras Yosef, and that came because he was involved in himself. Und durch Yehuda, Zog and Tzotka Memenya, Yehuda, by him caring for Tomor and saying she's right and she doesn't deserve to die, doesn't come to the level of tshuva of Ruven, but deswegen dafke davon abhängig the Gula von Golas. That brings the Gula. How do we see that what he said brings the Gula? Durch them, because he didn't have her killed, he said, don't kill her, is geboren Peretz. So Peretz was born, was von ihm stammt Malchus Beis David. Malchus Beis David comes from Peretz. Wie is Melech HaMashiach? Melech HaMashiach is called Ola Peretz of name. It says Peretz is the one that's because of Peretz. The Geil Achrem, which is the last redeemer, was that Peretz and the Gidri Agolos, which will break through the limitations of Golos from bringing the Gula Amitis Vashlema, the Korev Mamish.
I have to thank you very much, Rabbi Schapiro. It's a pleasure to sit